I'm like overwhelmed at this point because I could go in so many different directions. But one of the early conversations that Mo and I had, I think it was at our first supper, that time we were at Wood's barbecue, was that, I started talking to Mo about parameters. Like, all right, so what I've found is a sweet spot to grow protozoa between 85 degrees and about 100, 105 degrees. That tends to be the sweet spot if I'm really looking to produce protozoa. If I'm looking to produce fungi, it's going to be down lower. It's going to be 75 to 95, somewhere in that range. So the first thing I did was, all right, Mo, you're heating this. What are you heating to? So Mo, talk a little bit more about the parameters of the machine.
Absolutely. So we maintain a certain liquid solid ratio to keep it kind of a soupy mix, of course. And the heat, I found that the optimal range is right around in that 100-degree plus area Fahrenheit that you have for your biology as well. But the system runs really well within about an 80 degrees to about 125. When you go outside of those parameters, the process doesn't stop, but it slows down. And of course, the aeration is an additional key, because without we have a very, very particular aeration system that is also very critical for maintaining the bacteria in its form.
Because he has such a high BOD, biological oxygen demand, that temperature and introduction of high levels of parts per million of oxygen is critical in that circumstance. And so some of the other intricate pieces of this is that he balances pH. So why don't you talk a little bit about pH, because again, these are really important parameters to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we maintain a stable, a neutral pH between 6 and 7 is where we like to operate. Again, if you go, I've taken it up as high as 14, and I've taken it down super low. And when you go outside, of the neutral range, again, the process just slows down and doesn't work as well. And so we buffer the system. Because we're aerobically respiring, we very rarely have to actually lower the pH, because the respiration tends to be acidic and drops the pH. So we have to we have to raise the pH periodically. So we have a dosing system that buffers the pH and maintains it in the neutral range. And again, it's just using a calcium compound, very simple, to keep it again in a natural process without introducing anything harsh or toxic. So that's how we accommodate pH. And again, pH can be adjusted up or down, again, as may be needed for whatever crops you're growing, because there are certain crops that like it a little higher, some that like it a little lower. So that's another thing that can be accomplished here in the machine. You can just tell it, I want this to come out at 5, I want it to come out at 7, and we can just buffer it accordingly.
I wonder if humic acid would be just another great addition as your buffer, bringing in humic acid into the equation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that he does have, and again, thank you for bringing that up, because I probably would have forgotten, is he always starts with organic matter. So some type of compost or worm castings, whatever he can get his hands on to jumpstart that. So he is getting that initial bump of humic acid from that organic matter, because he's grinding it up into these tiny, tiny little molecules. He's releasing all the humic and fulvic acids that were built up in that organic matter. So again, the process, I've tried to poke holes in this from every side I could possibly think, and I can't. It's a gold bar, right? It's freaking amazing, results. And I think it's also important to understand that I have yet to find an example, and Av, maybe you can help me with this, of what I want to call nutrient exchange or digestion that is non-anaerobic. Like all animals, humans, we all have a digestive system that works or operates under anaerobic conditions. And I don't know of any other way to extract nutrient out of anything, meat, cheese, organic, whatever, without the influence of not having oxygen complicate or slow down the release of nutrients. So, Ab, can you come up with any situations?
I mean, our small intestines, is that not still aerobic, and it's our large intestines that are more anaerobic? Because do not monogastric?
From what I understand, it goes stomach acid, anaerobic, upper intestine, small intestine, anaerobic. Supposedly, when it turns that corner and comes into the large intestine,
That's where it's
parts per million start to go up a little, but it's not 8 parts per million. It's not aerobic. It's still considered, facultative at the best anaerobic.
Right.
So
I have to jump in here because I just had a thought. Is the first 4 feet of soil that oxygen gets into, it's naturally doing that. So isn't that just the way that Mother Nature is actually doing it?
Yeah, right. So again, this shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
You should not be able to extract nutrient at that level that quickly under these conditions with that much oxygenization. Yes, he's using more along the lines of facultative biology, but it's still the end result of the Muncher juice that comes out. Does it have a ping to it? Does it have an odor to it? Yeah. But is it offensive? No. If the system crashes and shuts down or loses power, then yes, it does begin to smell.
It can go anaerobic and become nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's mainly methane, and it's
right.
It's generating electricity, right? I mean, you're generating methane production.
Yeah, technically, because of the way the bacterial mixture that we use, it technically can be run as an anaerobic digester. Although we don't really want to go that direction with what we're doing, because then you get there are anaerobic digesters are all over the place. Right. I mean, that's a system that is already tried and proven, and we're doing something else. But our bacteria does function anaerobically as well.
Mm. So, have there been tests just applying the microbes to a crop and Muncher juice to a crop and seeing that there is in fact a synergistic response?
Yeah, yep. early tests that I had done too, and Leighton has been doing more of this. If you take just the bacterial mixture, like for example, you have to have something for the bacteria to feed on. If you just take the bacteria and water it down and throw it on something, it's not going to do much of anything. Mm-hmm. But when we initially, like I said, I was breaking down nitrate. The particular compound I used was sodium nitrate, and I would load up like several thousand milligrams per liter into water tanks, and then I would run the process. So now you've just got the bacteria eating nitrate, and I would take that liquid and apply it to plants, and it had phenomenal growth. But I found when I processed the solid waste, which is when our team came together those years ago, we had switched over to processing solid and not just doing the water treatment. The solid waste processing, it just seems to work better. And Leighton may speak a little more to that.
Yeah, you know what we're going to do? Let's go ahead and pull Billy up and finish with the cannabis, and then we'll bounce into arugula, which is exactly what your question pertains to.